Stand up.
And now, stand-up community subscribers and listeners from around the globe, it's time to Stand Up with Pete Dominic, where we ask the important questions that impact you, your family, and your community. Such as, could my new backyard gazebo potentially injure neighborhood cats with its razor-sharp eaves? And will the new documentary about Bob Ross reveal a complicated artist with personal problems and also happy little clouds? And now, the podcast host who will happily save all of the natural world aside from those satanic, horrible gophers, Pete Dominic.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pete Co. You are never wrong about me, sir. Thank you very much. And welcome to the show, everybody. If this is your first time listening to the show, Monday through Thursday, I do about a 20 to 30-minute news segment and then get to usually two guests almost every single day, two of the smartest people I can find, often the most thoughtful and hilarious as well. And today, no exception, because I've got Bob Saget joining me as my very special guest today. But then, little bonus content. I've done this from time to time. A guy called me a name on Twitter. I asked me if he would call me in real life, and we talked. Turned out he's a regular listener and a big Trump supporter, and we had like an hour-long conversation. I listened. I didn't interrupt. It didn't get too ugly. I did a good job. I think you might like it if you like those when I do that from time to time with folks. But unfortunately, today, I've got no news segment. I don't have all the bells and whistles as I normally do on every award-winning episode because I spent 4 hours editing it, and guess what? I didn't save it, and in the rare time that the program crashed and I lost it all. It was one of those super frustrating things, so I don't have the news today. I am really upset about it. I actually cried for a little bit, but I just want to say, to recap the things I did record that I lost, thank you for everybody reaching out, talking about supporting me for running for town council. Not going to take anything at all away from the podcast. Thank you for everybody giving the feedback on yesterday's show with Matt Jones, which is one of the most listened to episodes of all time. Thank you, Matt Jones. Go back and listen to that. Subscribe to the podcast. Go to patreon.com/Pete Dominic or just go to the paid subscription link in the show notes anytime. And I think that's it. Those are all the things I got to tell you. I'm just going to have to throw right now to my conversation with Bob Saget. Such a great guy. So good to me. Go see him live. BobSaget.com. Bob is going on tour this fall and winter. Indianapolis and California and Portland and Raleigh, North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, Milwaukee, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Denver, all these places and more. BobSaget.com. See him live while you can. He's working on a new hour. We had an awesome conversation, and I am going to play that for you right now. Again, sorry I didn't get all the news and everything. I swear that's only happened like a couple of times before, but super frustrating. My apologies to you on that. I'll make it up to you, I promise. Thank you very much for understanding. You know him from America's Funniest Home Videos, Full House, Fuller House. He wrote an amazing book about his life, his many comedy albums and specials, and, of course, his awesome podcast. Check out Bob's podcast. Bob Saget's here for you. It's so good. See him on tour. Go to BobSaget.com, as I said, and let's do it. Let's go, Bob.
Don't show me drinking this carcinogen.
All right, here we go.
Wait, let me finish a sip of this carcinogen.
Please let me keep this in. Is that your caffeine choice?
I ate a nail about an hour ago, and so the only way to dissolve it is with Coca-Cola.
What kind of nail?
I was doing carpentry, and I was hammering up some molding, and a double-headed nail just went down my throat. I had my mouth open, double-headed nail went down my throat. I'm not going to pass it, so all I can do is drink this product that people have seen over the years. And it literally will burn through the nail, so I'll be fine.
There's a lot of follow-up questions I would ask. I guess the most important one is I'm surprised that you do your own molding, that you don't have like a guy. You're Bob Saget. No,
and I'm also going to do my own surgery when this process that I'm trying doesn't work. When I can't shit my nail, my asshole's a nail gun. I eat a bunch of nails.
Bob Saget shoots nails from his ass, not in the Wikipedia, which I just read to prepare for you.
Right. Isn't that weird? Because with my podcast, I'll look up people's stuff. I will not go to Wikipedia because half of it's wrong. My Wikipedia is wrong about me. It's like, what?
So your podcast is very, very good.
Oh, God, thank you. I thought you could have gone either direction.
I think it might be. Maybe this doesn't sound weird. To me, it's my favorite thing that you've ever done.
You haven't seen me have sex.
I would. I've seen your wife. I in my
Hey, come on.
Well,
you watched me drinking a soda just now and dumping it in a garbage can. That's how. Who am
I supposed to imagine you having sex with, if not that?
I guess yourself. That'll be about it.
I can't wait to that final.
Or executives at that other place we don't speak of.
Sirius XM. I go back. Listen, you are here today to talk about critical race theory. And no.
I also want to say that because of the young Gen Zers that believe everything that some putrid person puts on the internet, if you're under 15 and don't understand the past and how comedy has been different over the years and how just don't listen to this, because we're going to say stuff that might be it's not comprehensible from your experience or your ears. And I also feel bad for people that believe sometimes a mob of people that make up lies. So these kids today are the future. Children are our future. So I just don't want kids listening to this podcast. That's what I've been doing that with mine. I have Gilbert on Monday. So right after we're done doing this, I'm going to talk to Gilbert. And when Gilbert and I talk, I have to preface it by saying you kids can't listen to this because it's all comedy. I'm just checking to make sure everything's on. I'm such a pro. Your podcast is great. Really? Let me see if the mic's on. People don't understand what we understand because we come from a different time.
Has anything terrible been said or done that's actually caught on about you from something that was like said at a roast or?
That's where it happened. So kids, through TikTok, I was just an innocent what? And I wrote a book, my New York Times bestseller. You helped me promote it. Thank you. It's called Dirty Daddy, which is a great title for a book right now. And see, what the people don't realize is it was different then. We made jokes about the worst things possible because that's how we got through them. They can't understand that. I can't expect a 12-year-old to understand it. But the people that try to spread bad things, one guy got taken down because he was illegally posting stuff. And another person's like an ex-porn actress. And she goes and puts up this thing and a million kids see it or a little bit older and just not smart and believe the mob. And it was basically saying that my roast was the news, that the roast, the comedy roast. And there it is. Look at it above me. Look above me. There's a poster from it right up there.
Amazing.
That's the roast of me. And that was a big hit at the time. And it really is full of a lot of jokes that I didn't once said about people that I love. There were a lot of jokes about Ashley and Mary Kate in there done by other comedians. I never did them. And they knew about it and they watched it and they love me and I love them. But you can't convince a woke mob. Did it hurt their feelings? I was really concerned about it because I asked the producer not to do the jokes and everybody did them. That's all I can say is it's not the news. It was people saying bad stuff, but they're like my dearest friend. They're like my family. So anybody that says that shit makes me want to punch them in the nose because I'm close with them and love them. I love all the people from that show. So that's people are, I don't know. It's unfortunate where people go now mentally.
Well, I'm super sorry to hear that. And I do have to tell you.
But it's nothing. I mean, it's kind of almost gone away, except some of the woke kids. But I just block everybody now. I don't care. I get rid of people.
I was just good. That's the best thing to do. I was just with my 13-year-old daughter. I go, who I'm interviewing tonight? She's like, who? And I go, Bob Saget from Full House. She's like, you are? I go, right. Yeah. And she goes, why would he talk to you? Which was kind.
Well, she's not part of the unwoke mob.
Well, she goes
the mob that isn't woke.
she then goes, didn't he do something like bad or something like that?
Oh, that's TikTok. Wow.
And I go, what? And she's like, yeah, something like assault or something. I go, I like stopped the car. I go,
see, that's bad. So
I go, Bob Saget is legitimately, to the people who know him even a little, the best guy in entertainment. He's a great guy. And no one thinks anything ever.
Well, these kids do. And it was spread by evil, bad people. But that's also in my book. I talked about something that happened on the set, and it was, I expounded, how your publishers say, oh, make it worse, So let's really double down on the tabloidness of this. So I did stuff to make people laugh, and if a kid goes, you drew a dick on a Full House script? I went, yes, I was sitting next to Dave and John, and nobody else saw it. Kids didn't see it. I was in junior. It's a grown up being talked to like a child because you're on a kid's show. And that's how we passed the time, because we didn't do it all the time. We did it a few times at readings, but it was just funny. It was just, and nobody took offense. And, once I got to tell you, whenever I see Ashley, Mary Kate, when they came to see my last play in New York, or when they come to my scleroderma benefits because I lost my sister to scleroderma, none of these people even Google to see what the truth is.
Right.
And you can't even get the truth in Google. But anyway, I don't want to dwell on that. It's just sad that your daughter picked up on that, because I don't deserve that blemish on my record, because even in my book, I apologized. In the moment, I apologized for.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think that it's a good way to get into what I really wanted to discuss with you, which
is yourself getting removed.
I got called a pedophile for a week by about 1 million Twitter accounts because one of the biggest names in the right-wing media, reacted to something I said.
I've been called that also. And that's like, I actually want to tell those people what I want to tell them, but which is not a nice word.
Here's what
and the second word is off, or themselves, because I am the really good father that they want me to be.
Yeah.
I am the guy that's Danny Tanner. I just always had a weird sense of humor because my parents lost 4 children, and we made jokes out of sick stuff because we barely survived. And my dad would have a sick sense of humor, and a sense of humor that's gallows humor or real negative, dark humor doesn't mean you're that person. So I don't know how to explain it to a 12-year-old, but I am the father that they wish that I was. I mean, for God's sakes, I got a dust rag right here. I clean my glasses like Danny Tanner. I hug. I've hugged you from behind, and we played banjo music. That 12-year-old just hated me again. But the truth of it is, it's all, I also went on Opie and Anthony in the morning and told a story that was in the book and all that shit. So those are the 3 things, by the way. That's it. That's what they based that I had done terrible things to, which is just, it was all done. And I hated the way I came off. And I am disgusted by how that looked. 7 a.m, going into Opie and Anthony, trying to brag and be part of the boys club 15 years ago. It's just 10 years ago, whatever it is. It's not right. And I wouldn't do a lot of stuff that I did then now. I love my new stand-up. I love my new approach to everything. I've grown up. I'm 65, and people just don't know me. And if they did, they would apologize. I deserve an apology from all the people on TikTok that your poor daughter had to hear them say such horrible things, because I own all my shit. I apologized in the book immediately. I shouldn't have done that stupid thing with that prop doll, for 10 seconds, but I made it sound like more. But it's bad anyway. It's bad messaging. I just never thought it would go anywhere, but I put it in a book. So I put it in a book. Right. And then they'll write, he laughed maniacally. They'll take this clip.
I was trying to get ready to talk to you, and I've listened to your podcast in the past, but I hadn't listened to it in a little while. And I was like, what should I listen to? And I decided to I couldn't decide because there's so many great guests that you have on. Obviously, I love when 2 comedians are talking, but I listened to Jason Sudeikis from last year, which is great.
Boy, I love him.
But my favorite one, and I chose it specifically, was your conversation with Jodie Sweetin.
Yeah.
Because if people want to know, like, you have 3 daughters, right? 3 daughters?
I have 3 daughters, 34, 30. My daughters are 34, 31, and 28, and they are really deeply upset by anything derogatory said about me because they know me.
Yeah, and I met and hung out with 2 of your daughters at
I want to talk to you about that.
At the show you were in.
You're under arrest.
Which was so great. And they were so cool and so proud of you. And then, listening to...
I'm so proud of them.
Jody, who played... What was her name in Full House, Jody?
Stephanie.
In case
I'm trying to get out of the thing. Look at that. That thing blocks my head. Your stand-up thing.
Oh, no. Oh, no, it's fine. My little logo?
No, it is now. But I have to move myself in order not to be... You're trying to cock block my head.
The point is, you really are that guy. And all of these young women were lucky to grow up with you, period. So
I actually thank you for saying that. But I'm like angry. Sure. And I didn't want to talk about it. Michael O'Brien said, my publicist, my best dear friend, one of my dearest friends, said, don't talk about it. You dignify it. But this is maybe where the soundbite that they'll get it from. I don't know. But it's just, it's unfortunate that a couple of really bad people continue to light the flames of garbage throughout our whole society. And so much is based on just garbage that's not true. But about me, I'm like the first person that would help any kid. I would never, ever, when they say you did these things, like actual actions, like what the?
You were around kids in the
my whole career. I did father show after father show,
and we're legitimately. I know it's so easy to make these jokes, and now you can't anymore, I guess. But
I don't want to. That's the other thing is I wouldn't choose to do it now anyway. That's what's so strange.
Fine, but the point I'm trying to make is you were never accused of anything by anyone ever. And
by the way,
we all know it.
But that's what like people like a 12-year-old goes, why isn't he in jail? I don't know. Go, why aren't you in jail, you little sheep-herded little bastard?
I got so many threats. I'm not you, obviously. But I got so many threats. People wanted to kill me, and my thing was
well, I want to kill you.
Well, that's different. That has nothing to do with anything inappropriate that either of us done. That's something that you get aroused by.
I think both, yes, but only if I'm inside I can't go there. I can't do this. I can't do the jokes we did, Pete.
Lord, come on.
But no, can't do it. Even if you're in, a giant armoire. But what I was going to say is, I feel like I wish we could start this whole podcast over again because this will be the thing that people listen to. But it's funny because I've been doing a lot of stand-up. I'm touring everywhere. I'm in Indianapolis this weekend. Really excited about it. My shows have been great. People are surprised that I'm more. I talk about this a little bit about, I'm just not as blue, but I still talk about my wiener because what else am I going to talk about? I don't want to offend anybody.
Right.
If I'm talking about him, nobody gets hurt. But again, that's not for 12-year-olds. I perform in a place you got to be 21. You know,
can't
get into a theater because they serve booze. So, but I'm selling out everywhere, not as a person. But I wouldn't do the stuff that I used to do, and they want me to do it. They'll yell out, sing the Aristocrats, sing. Or, sing it. I don't know why they want me to sing it, but they want me to do stuff that I'm not capable of doing. And I wasn't capable of doing it when I did it. And then Gilbert Gottfried is who we have to blame for all of this.
Yeah, because he said these things. And
don't repeat them. But that's the clip they're using.
Yep.
It's literally, they think it's the news. And then they believe ex-porn actresses and just people that want to make a name on YouTube. And they're brainwashed and they're cultists and they're just... They just can't think for themselves, and it's very, very sad.
So I have kind of a way to prove kind of what kind of a person you are, what kind of a guy you are. And
let's go that direction. That'll be good.
Well, I think that I was, again, thinking about you a lot and your career and listening to all your stories and knowing you a little bit personally. Is you have been one of the closest friends to some of the most iconic, legendary comedians of our time, the time before us, and now the time after us. Rodney Dangerfield, Richard Pryor, Gary Shanley, Sam Kinison are what I came up with. These are 4 guys who adored you. Everybody.
Well, that changed. I had some issues. Sam and I were closer, and then became more acquaintances as he went off and got a little more into his lifestyle. Gary and I, and Judd Apatow's great documentary about him, the Zen Diaries of Gary Shanley, I come out and not unlike I did right at the beginning of this, our conversation here, I wasn't as high throttle, with my anger and defense, but I have nothing to defend except I am angry. But with Gary, who I love very, very much, there was an issue because who was a mutual friend, and he had a parting of ways with my dear friend, and was Gary's dear friend, Brad Gray. But he, felt betrayed, and to many feel he was betrayed. And I was in the middle of it, and they're both gone, and I will always love them both, always. And so Gary and I were very, very close. For the first 8 years of my career in LA, he was the first friend that I made. Mm-hmm. At the Comedy Store. I even voiced over bits for him that he would play on a pre-record, and I'd go over his house and we'd write. And I am sad about that friendship, but I had a closeness with Gary that, and then we kind of made it up. I don't know what happened. I understood his position. I'm like that politically too. I understand another person's position. I don't go. I have a couple of people that I love that I'm texting, please get vaccinated. You just had COVID. In 6 months, when you don't have antibodies, this thing's going to, and they don't want to respond. So I give up, and I still love them. I'm not going to stop loving somebody because they believe differently than me. And that's how I approach my shows. That's how I approach human beings. But if you're cruel to me and lie about me and make up shit, then I am now at the point of not, because I have about 10,000 kids I should sue for defamation of character. But instead, I just send them love and I block them. I'm not doing negative anymore.
I know, but to be clear, nobody that knows you has ever really spoken badly about you publicly.
Not that knows me. Not that knows me.
That's the only thing that matters.
I know, but not if a bunch of people, if your daughter's saying something to you, that disturbs me, because that's not a legacy. And I'll be able to, I don't know, it's your actions. It's just how you are with people. And the next time they see me with Mary-Kate and Ashley at an event, they'll be like, oh my God, how could they be victims still? I'm the victim. I'm the actual victim. I did humor that is completely at this moment in time, not something that should be done. And I do apologize for that. I apologize for the humor that I did years ago, how it rests today, because it doesn't belong. And it did, when you look at it now, it did more harm than good, but it didn't affect their lives because they weren't born. And their parents laughed at it because they knew that I was coming from a place of the sick. Sarah Silverman said it really brilliantly. I'm sorry if anything I did in the past, I think she said, affects anyone today, but that was then. I would never say that now. Right. And she did a lot of brilliant Holocaust jokes, because the Holocaust was one of the worst things that ever happened, except for what's going on now. But we're not there yet, thank God.
Well, by the way, where are you on the Holocaust? Pros, cons?
Well, I don't think I should mention anything about that, because there's a lot of sick jokes that go with that I would do that would take us back 15 years. In fact, Gary Shanley had one of the best jokes I ever heard, and you can't do them. And there's enough hate in the world, because there's real hate in the world right now that's on public display. Yeah. And because of that, it's a reset, and it's a complete do-over. And that I'm a different person. I'm a different person than I was. That's why if a 12-year-old goes, apologize, I go, no, you know what? I'll apologize. I'll be the bigger person. I'm sorry that I said something out of context for the present day 10 or 15 years ago, and it doesn't belong. Watch some of these great old movies. They don't, you can't do them now. You can't do those jokes because the needle's moved, and I'm good with that. I'm good to feel bad about, of course I feel bad about things that hurt anybody today, but not to believe it. I did any of the actions of my jokes. It's called fucking stand-up comedy. We've all done dark jokes, except for Bill Cosby, who was holier than thou, and he did the actual actions. So, and yes, that has been proven innocent by a court of civil law. I don't know what the hell happened.
And several other comedians, and what we're
right. And so I'm the one who said stuff like I've always been a junior high school kid. So I'm immature and stupid. That's why I would draw a penis on a script that kids can't see. And if the director says, hey, you got this test dummy to talk to as an actor, and you're in the kid's bedroom, and it's only guys on the set, and the kids can't see it. So in my book, I'm not completely accurate, but it doesn't matter. It's in the book.
Yeah.
And then I apologize afterward. And that's what people talked about when I did that one radio show. And that was, nobody saw it. Right. Literally, nobody saw it. The joke was, the TVs are on, and that was the punchline. So unfortunately, my punchline that wasn't reality came back to bite me in the ass. So I don't know what to tell you. I hate feeling like I'm on the defensive. I'm more on the aggressive. I'm very angry.
I understand. I understand that but
I also want to fix it. And what I'm doing now in stand-up is better than any. I'm going to shoot a special in the coming months. It's going to be the best thing I ever did, and I know that because it's all about not letting negative in and being kind to each other and all that stuff that I actually believe heavily. That's why I have 3 daughters and why I'm close with every single kid, more so than almost anybody, every person on that show and every other show I did. I did a sitcom with Jonathan Katz was the exec producer.
Yep.
And this show should have lasted. It was called Raising Dad. And we did 24 of them for the WB, but they didn't pick it up, but it was popular in England. And Jerry Adler, who was Hesh on The Sopranos, was my dad. Mm-hmm. Andy Kindler, who we love, was my principal. I was a teacher. And my daughters were Kat Dennings and Brie Larson. And Kat's best friend on the show was Megan Good. So, okay, these are all going to be stars, these kids. I mean, like the biggest, right? Marvel stars. And I'm here being a good role model on the set. And so everybody that has said, this is just kids. No adult believes it. They goes, any adult that goes on these things goes, what are you kids talking about? Gen Z's out of their minds. This guy's, and it was sent out by, again, like some horrible, if you look at the story, I don't want to give her any cred, but she's I don't know. I don't want to give anybody let's just erase the whole week. Can we start now? So Pete, what's it like to get fired?
Well, that's why I'm here to tell you that I've organized a PSA with all of the women that you've worked with attesting to your true character.
Well, yeah, my true character is it's pretty noble, except when I was single and available for 20 years.
I want,
and when you're acting with somebody, it's a different thing. You have to create boundaries, also as a man as well.
Sure.
And sometimes people can misread people. That's the other thing that happens.
Well,
so
the thing that's about you, though,
I'm going to quit showbiz and become a one-armed fiddler.
No, I think that's still going to be showbiz, and those gigs are even harder to get. So,
one-armed fiddler. I think everybody would give me money if I had my little fiddle case open.
How come all of these people that you've worked with your entire life like you so much? How come I like you so much?
Because I have love for people, and I love good, smart people. And you and I have liked each other from the moment we met. When I came into Sirius and I sat there, but we met in a club, didn't we?
We met at Aspen. No, we met at HBO Comedy Fest, Las Vegas, maybe.
Right. And that I would be canceled for that set.
That was right when people were first, I think, seeing a lot of your stand up, like at a.
Well, not really, because I'd already had my HBO special, That Ain't Right. And that was I was 2007, I think. And that was one of the highest rated HBO specials they'd had around then. And that's the one where I dropped F-bombs there was like every 2 minutes. It was like a rim shot. And then people gave me shit for that. But people always give you shit unless you're doing something as brilliant as Jim Gaffigan or Brian Regan or Jerry or Sebastian or Ray Romano, where you just don't do anything to ruffle anybody's feathers. And you just do smart, astute, great observational comedy. And I respect the hell out of it. And then I hang out with Dave Chappelle. It's his birthday yesterday. I think you're running this the day after his birthday.
Uh-huh.
And Bill Burr and they're, I've always just tried to outgross comedians just for fun. It's like sparring, and it doesn't mean you're that person. When you find out a couple of our people that we've known over the years are that person, that's quite disturbing. But I've never been close with anyone in my whole life who was guilty of the stuff that they ended up, being canceled for. I know those people, but I've never been close with any of them because I think I'm a good judge of character.
I thought Harvey Weinstein was your closest friend for years.
He managed me for 2 years. I'm not joking.
He did?
He did. When I was 22 years old, Brad Gray, who became my manager, worked for Harvey as a runner in Buffalo. And Harvey said, we want to manage you. And because I was on the Comedy Store college tour at 22 years old. And Brad was 20 and Harvey was like 26. He never touched me. And he was difficult, and he was wanted to make movies. He was a rock promoter. So I was with him for a year or two, and then Brad separated from him, and they had a little lawsuit. But then they ended up, I don't know what happened. There were some Miramax or movies that were done through Paramount when Brad ran Paramount. I don't understand the whole thing, or the Weinstein Company. I don't remember. But anyway, obviously what he's done, I have no desire to know people that are of that ilk.
Have you ever been surprised? Yeah, I think you just actually said it when allegations are made, much less proven that somebody's done, something. I feel like if you're in the business, like I had heard about Cosby, 20 years from a woman, from one of his victims who was on the show, told me that he groped her. And I contacted her when it all came out. And I was like, do you want me to corroborate the thing you told me 20 years ago? She was like, I don't want any part of that. But the point is, you hear things when so it's just, it seems like
I was very naive to it. And and I don't want to dwell on this anymore. I think I've already done myself in. I've already ruined myself with the opening of this podcast. I do think that people need to be held accountable for their actions. And what he did, I believe, I'm not a jury, but I am not a fan, because all he said is don't talk dirty on stage, and then did lascivious things. And there's so many people. I mean, there's so many people, but we hear that all the time. And then there's also people that are sex addicts that have done stuff, and they go, I'm sorry. And they put out an apology. I haven't put out an apology because I've done it at the beginning of this podcast. I apologize for 3 stupid ass things that I've done, and a bunch of stand up that most of it's, I think, pretty good. But it's all jokes. Jokes with people, what you're learning is, and what we've learned is, jokes can hurt, But meanwhile, if I would say those jokes to people that I looked up to, if you listen to Rodney's stuff, or you listen to a lot of people's stuff, and Rodney was a hero. He was a big mentor of mine. When you were talking about my friends, he was someone that I met. He put me on the Young Comedian special, his first one that he hosted for HBO. And Sam Kinison was on right after me. And I had the same amount of time as Sam. And I said, Rodney, you cut me down to like 3.5 minutes, and Sam had 13 minutes. He goes, yeah, but he killed, man. I went, Rodney, I did too. I really killed. I know, man. But I don't know. It was Sam. And so I didn't care, because I loved Rodney. I was friends with him. I was with him at the very end when he went into a coma after a attempted brain surgery that I did on him. No, that was done at a hospital, and it didn't work, which is very sad. And then Richard, I knew from hosting the Comedy Store for 8 years, and Richard is a lot of people's hero because he was starting by doing similar Cosby stuff. I saw a clip of Johnny Carson talking to Richard saying, well, some people say that you, I do the worst impressions. Some people say that you took Bill Cosby's material. And then Richard owned it. He was like, yeah, I did. I can't remember what the clip was. I don't do it right. But Richard's key was, he'd go on Barbara Walters and lie. And then she'd show him a clip and say, you said this and you lied. He goes, yeah, I guess I did. But I'm not lying now. But Richard was an anomaly and a maverick and a hero of mine. And he was so kind to me. And that's in my book, too. There's a lot of, the thing that people are giving me shit for from that one thing in the book, the rest of it is about how my sisters died, how my ex-wife, who was my wife then, almost died during the birth of my baby, my firstborn. And that's where the Aristocrats joke came from. I did it because Paul Provenza was at the hospital. No, it was at my home when my kid's mom came home, and she almost died during the birth. And so I wrote that chapter and had to send it to my oldest daughter and my ex-wife to make sure that I did everything right. And they were going, and it was painful for us. It was not how it happened. that's what the book's about, how comedy gets you through death. And of course, these 12-year-olds don't read the book. I don't think they can read. They only have to go, oh, I saw in that comment that he's guilty. And then that's just like, and because I laugh, then I'll laugh after saying that. They'll say, oh, it's that maniacal laugh. They're just completely off and ignorant. And I want to help them. Because I am, somebody said, you're America's dad. And they say it to me a lot. And I don't mind that title if they don't mind that I've done R-rated humor through the years, because I started at 17 years old doing stand-up and then didn't get on Full House as an actor till 30 years old. So,
well, I did want to ask you.
I'm sorry, we're out of time.
About being dad. You have 3 daughters. We've talked about this in the past. I always love to ask other dads for advice. My daughters are almost 14 and 16. And, there's all kinds of challenges for adolescent girls. What advice, like, how do you keep that? How do you have you maintain such a great relationship with your daughters through that time? Did you have a time where they were like, get out of my face, don't even talk to me, and then they come back to you? I hear that.
Oh, absolutely. That's called growing up. But there was so much love, and their mom and I got divorced years ago. So they were young. They were 4, 7, and 9. Very, very painful. Divorce to me was even harder than death. I lost 2 sisters, scleroderma, and the other was schizophrenic and died of a brain aneurysm. We've had a rough life, our family. So that's why I turned to, inappropriate humor, because that's like everything else was like, I equate it to a soldier out on a battlefield and sees death and then somehow is able to make a joke about it. That's the only thing that can pull you out of having a complete PTSD mental breakdown the rest of your life. I had somebody die like every year and faced a lot of stuff, and still am with people I love and care about. That's why I also, my advice is, yes, when your kids are 16, when my middle daughter was 16, she was going through a phase, and I talked about her in an HBO special once, and I got in trouble and I apologized. And I just said something like I won't even do the joke. Why repeat it again? But she was right. And I apologized. And I've always had a really open relationship with them. I'm incredibly close with my daughters. They're my life. And I have an amazing wife and they love her. So, I would say when they're young, before 12, you drive them everywhere and you just love them, no matter what they do.
Yeah.
You got to give them guardrails. You got to discipline them. Like for your daughter to say, didn't he do something? I would punish her because it involves me. If she thinks something negative of me, I would say, ground her for like 6 months. Don't let her. Well, that's quarantine. That's just normal.
No, I did. I actually did. I took her phone from her and I said, you need to learn how to find out where the truth lies. And that's why I've asked her to join up. No. You have
to wheel her in like a South Park episode. But then after 16, at 12, they got to have a phone. So then you got to make sure they never turn off their location, find my iPhone or whatever you have on it. You have to know where they are. And if they turn it off, you take the phone away and they can't leave the house because nothing good happens after midnight is a true thing.
Well, my daughter has a burner phone connected to a drone, so it's very hard.
That's fine. Well, you could always have the drone actually physically pick her up, because one day they're going to have those. They're going to have claws on them and pick them up like when you're at the bowling alley and you want to get the stuffed animal out of the thing. But the key is just to love them and be honest with them. And I've had to be very honest with my kids, very honest. And I haven't lied to my kids, and that's really hard because a single guy at 42 years old, and their mom and I, split up, and it's really hard. Divorce is really hard on kids. So it requires more communication and more love. And you're not divorced, right?
No, I won't let her leave me. She's tried.
When is that scheduled, though?
Like every other month.
Was she part of the negotiations with Sirius?
That wouldn't have gone well. She once told a comedy club owner that I was auditioning for to go fuck himself. So I don't want her involved in my negotiations. She doesn't have that kind of ability to suffer fools that we in entertainment have to, Before
we should record this again tomorrow so I can take back all the things that are going to get picked up. This is going to help you because you're going to get clips from this. I'm so scared to post this.
I know I got to let you go. If you want me to take something out, I will.
Your penis. No, but the thing is, see, I'm telling you, I don't want to see those COVID pants.
Just wearing my shorts.
What was that? Your shorts were folded up.
No, I have like a.
Why are they folded up? Do you keep packs of cigarettes in them? Pete, below frame, please. Pete.
I have shorts with tights under them. Anyway, I do a lot of lower body strength training.
Me too. I do it a lot when I'm on the toilet.
Can you do me a favor?
No.
Can you endorse me for town council?
Yeah. Do you need that? Well, wait a minute. You running town council? You don't even wear pants.
I'll take that as part of the endorsement. You know where?
Are you really running for town council?
Yeah, the local Democrats had recruited me, and it's where Levity Live is. You performed there many times.
Yeah, Nyack, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I did that because I was there, and I can't stop doing stand-up. I haven't had this happen to me since 1995, and maybe that's because I feel more need to do it, and people need entertainment more, and it's very healthy for me, you know?
When you were there, I was out of town, or I would have come down. And next time, I hope to see you in person. But
I had a funny thing happen. I wish you would have been there. Michael Che came down one night, and so he went up, and I just love him so much. Yeah, it's insane, great. And how smart he is and funny he is, and he loves pranking. He just thinks it's the best thing in the world. So I said, "Look, I'll go out. I'll open the show, and then I'll bring you out." And I did. We had a lovely opener. Oh, God, what's her name? She's so good. Damn it. I'll remember it, and you can put it in the notes. but I said, we have a special good evening, everybody, and they seemed excited to see me. And it was full. It was sold out, but but it wasn't able to be sold out because of the restrictions at the time. Yeah. So I said, I've got a special guest. And I wasn't going to do this. I couldn't help it. He's one of my favorite people. You know him from his new HBO Max show, and he's from SNL. Here he is, Michael Che. And then he comes out. We hug each other. He's like, why? I said, I don't know. I don't know why I did that. I'm so sorry. So I said, when it's over, don't introduce me. I've got a music thing that plays. You don't have to do anything. Of course, after what I did to him, he's finished. He said, that's my time. I just wanted to say something right now. Are you ready for your father growing up? Yeah. One of the best comedians, one of the OGs, one of the best. And they just kept, Bob Saget. It was literally a DJ move. What I did, awesome. We're in the house. All the cardinal sins of don't build me up.
Man, I miss hanging out with comedians.
Yeah, that's the other thing I've been enjoying a bit. But I don't love doing lineups. I like doing an hour and a half on the road because I got to work this special. Yeah. So I got to find it. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm in Indianapolis at Helium this Friday, Saturday. And then I'm on the road everywhere. I'm just going everywhere.
I'm on your website. And after I press stop, I'll read every place you're going to be and include it. BobSaget.com.
Yeah, it's Saget with an S. So I'm performing all over the country for probably at least a year and a half. I might go direct a movie. I've got a movie coming out. I don't know when. It's called Blue Iguana. They might change the name to Killing Daniel, so look for one of those two. And then stand up everywhere. And it's bobsaget.com. And the podcast, you're supposed to say this, but I'll say it.
It's one of the best I've heard. And everybody should check it out. Bob Saget is here for you. And
I think it's Bob Saget's here for you. It's with apostrophe S. It's a conjunction. So I have conjunctivitis.
I seriously though, you're one of the handful of people whose approval I need, and it's I think it's weird if I run for town council unless certain people I admire, like you say, yeah, you would be good at that. Even though you've spent your career doing this, you would be good at that.
Do you want to do that?
I do.
Before I endorse you, let me see your platform and everything. So send me all the stuff. I don't want it just to say, everything opposite of the other. Yeah,
that's fine. But just the idea of
what is town council?
I don't know.
Can you be mayor of West Nyack?
5 councilmen on the town. But it's not legitimate.
Oh, I don't mind doing that. You got a good mind. Do you get along with the other people? Are you willing to listen and collaborate?
No.
So as soon as masks and guns get brought up, you're just done?
I'll run out of there like a cartoon dog. No, it's helping.
My publicist is going to hate this podcast. He's going to say you did everything you're not supposed to do.
Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate it.
I don't want to say goodbye to you. I miss you.
I miss you a lot. And when you're back here or wherever you are, I'll come to you. I would love to see you and be with you. And whenever I am, I feel better about myself. So I was really excited.
That's really sweet. Do you really mean that?
Always have. The idea that when I first met you, the very first time I interviewed you, I felt like we danced. And I'll never forget that.
No, we did. We were in an Arthur Murray's dance studio.
That's right.
Were actually taking lessons.
No,
but the first time I came we knew each other before, but we met in Aspen, or Vegas, not Aspen. Sorry. Was it Aspen or Vegas?
They're both HBO. That's why they get confused. HBO.
Yeah, it was one or the other. But I have a feeling it might have been Vegas. It was when Jamie Kennedy and I sang Rolling with Saget.
I think maybe. I think it was.
Because Aspen, I didn't do a set. Aspen, I roasted Rodney.
Oh, I wish I was there for that. I definitely wasn't there for that. But yeah, when we met there, I've just always felt like I knew you. And
we do know it. Comedians all know each other, and they can tell the character.
Broadway, you were amazing on Broadway. Amazing.
Oh, that was fun. What play did you see me in?
I forget the name of it.
Was it Hand to God?
Yes, so good.
And I was a priest in that one. That would have thrown the kids off. Why is he not Danny Tanner?
Bob Saget.
I miss you, Pete. So thank you. Thanks for cutting anything out that has to do with canceling. Good. You have 6 minutes there.
You're good, buddy. You're fine. Hey,
well, you take care of yourself. I'm going to go call Gilbert now, and you know what that's going to be like.
Yeah. Have fun with that.
It is fun, but he's going to say stuff I need to edit out.
He's the original, one of the original canceled. I feel like
he is the guy that said stuff and then didn't realize he said anything wrong,
and still hasn't.
Well, he does. He does realize he's scared of doing anything to hurt anybody.
Really? That sucks.
He's a sweetheart. He would never hurt anybody. He was just, he found his niche yelling, and he's funny. He's Iago. He's the bird from Aladdin.
All right, bud.
All right. You take care. Tell your daughter that I'm...
I did, Bob. I pulled the car over. I was like, what are you possibly saying? I didn't even look up what she was saying. I was like, you must be mistaken. He is one of the kindest men. He always has been.
But you can't go and say, the problem is you can't go and say, hey, everybody, I'm one of the kindest men. I'm a good dad. You can't do that. And I can't. You can, but they're not listening to you. They need, somebody that they need. All I need is a hit TV series. That's all it takes. That's what's so fucked up. There's some horrible people, but once they get a thing, everybody goes, oh, they're great, until somebody comes up and talks about them. Nobody's going to come out and talk about me. And if they do, I'll just buy them clothes at Bloomingdale's.
I'm still taping.
Oh, no. All right. I miss you. Thanks for using this StreamYard. It's really good quality.
I love you, buddy. Thank you so much.
I love you too. Be well. And I'll sign a thing for you for a city council.
I just want you to tell me that I'm going to be.
Just don't say you're pro anything.
I think you and I probably disagree on nothing politically.
I would probably agree with that.
Yeah.
I get vaccinated 12 times a day.
In the penis. I
actually have said that on stage. And I should just do a show for 12-year-olds and end it all.
Yeah.
Be well, man.
All right, man. Thank you.
I'll see you
later.
Bye.
Yeah, we did it. Saget, everybody. BobSaget.com. Go see him live and listen to his podcast. His podcast is really, really good. I'm telling you, so many great guests, so many great conversations, and I highly recommend you check out his podcast as well. It's called Bob Saget's Here For You. Check it out, and please let him know. He'll see the mentions. He's got 2 million followers, and hopefully he'll share a conversation, but either way, he'll see the mentions. And he gets back to people all kinds of different ways. So at Bob Saget on Twitter. And now I got a bonus conversation for you. I don't have his picture. I don't know too much about him. but come to find out he's a longtime listener. I thought he was just a guy on Twitter being a jerk, but he was a special kind of jerk. Like what he said, he called me a beta, and I thought that was really interesting. You know, I'm not an alpha, I'm a beta, and there are all the masculinity stuff. And anyway, I really wanted to try to have a conversation with him, and I've done this a few times before, but this one went a lot better, especially because he actually knows me pretty well and even listens to the podcast. So thanks a lot to Ryan for letting me record the conversation, for trusting me. And I think you might like this. Another kind of conversation that started as an argument. He's a supporter of Trump, but I think you might like this. Those of you who like these types of conversations, I think I'm getting a bit better at it, and I wasn't so interrupty. I wasn't rude. I don't think he was really, but I'd love to know what you think of my conversation with Ryan in Kansas. Here we go.
Hello, Mr. Dominic.
Hey, Ryan.
How are you? Yes, this is Ryan.
Hey, I'm recording, so maybe we want to switch your first name, or can I just use your first name?
Yeah, first name's fine.
So basically, I have this little experiment, and sometimes I post these conversations on my podcast, sometimes I don't. But when people say certain types of things to me on Twitter that I don't know, that probably don't know me, I like to just offer them up to have a real conversation. And so that's what this is. Cool?
Yeah, that's great. I've listened to almost every one of your podcasts, so I feel like I know you well.
Oh.
It's probably going to be one-sided.
Oh. One-sided meaning what?
Well, yeah, because I feel like I know you really well, and you don't have any idea.
Oh, all right. Well, you wrote, God, you're a dick. Like, you weren't being sarcastic, right? Like, you really thought my post was dicky?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I just want to make sure that. So first of all, thank you for listening to the podcast. But I wrote, I tweeted, just so everybody knows, I quote tweeted a picture of the list of prohibited items at the Trump rally in Alabama. And
right.
It reads, a whole long list, but I quote tweeted, weapons and the obvious are at the end of the list because, quote, patriots don't think their, quote, freedoms should be, quote, infringed. And Trump organization doesn't think they'll read that far. And you responded to that by saying, God, you're a dick. Must be painful to be such a beta. So I set that up. Would you add anything to it?
I would say a liberal snob. I don't even want to use the word liberal. Progressive snob is kind of how you come off. Come off like that a lot. You're not ever going to change anybody's opinion by that kind of tweet. And quite frankly, I know what you're meaning by that. Are they too stupid to read all the way through, all the way down? Is it the hypocrisy of the post, of the sign? No weapons? Maybe. I don't know, but it comes off as very snobby, and a lot of your tweets do. When you're not, making fun of Trump, it's usually somebody else. And you're the one that says all the time on your show, get different sources, listen to other people. But I've listened to you for 10 years. I used to talk to you on Sirius XM. You're not changing my mind. As a matter of fact, you're making me dig in with stuff like that. So, yeah, I stand by what I said. I stooped to your level a little bit by calling people names.
That's completely welcome information. I appreciate everything that you just said. What's the last episode of my podcast you listened to?
I think Christian Finnegan yesterday.
Great.
No, today's Sunday, so Friday.
Yeah. Awesome. Again, really appreciate you listening. Do you support Donald Trump?
I did, yeah.
Okay. So then why do you even listen to anything that I have to say? I mean, I wouldn't say why do you follow me on Twitter, but more importantly, it's interesting that you're a Trump supporter and you listen to my podcast. I almost never think anybody that supports Trump listens to anything I have to say at this point, but I'm glad that I'm wrong about that. So why do you listen?
for the main reasons that you have said to listen to other people. You have to understand where the other side's coming from, and you are about as of a progressive person as I've ever heard of, going way back to the Sirius XM days. And I think you're funny, by the way. So, I mean, that's what I enjoy about your podcast. The other part of it, when it's politics, you know, makes my blood boil. But at the same time, I sit there and I listen to you and I wonder, how is it that you and I in the same country can come to two completely different conclusions when talking about a subject? And I think it's healthy for people to do that. I think it's very healthy.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I did not expect it to go this way. And I'm really interested in furthering the conversation based on everything you just said, because one of the issues I have is, one of the main issues of not hosting the live radio show is not taking random calls from people all over the country, especially people who have never heard of me and they just fell on the show or something. Those are kind of the favorites. I love talking to complete strangers, but more importantly, just Trump supporters. There aren't many in my life. So if I can just have like reasonable conversations with people that basically hold the view that you just articulated, that I'm all for that. So let me just can I ask you just like a few questions then? Do you got time?
Yeah.
Awesome, man. It's cool. Do you mind just telling me a little bit about yourself without, necessarily revealing any personal information, unless you somehow feel, the desire to? I mean, I when I press stop on this, I will get your permission. Well, before I press stop, I'll get your permission to air it. And if you want me to take anything out, I will. And that gives you hopefully a feeling of comfort and being open.
Sure. Well, I don't know how much your listeners want to know about me, other than I'm 35. I live in Kansas, so you're going to take a pretty good guess at what I do. I'm a farmer and a rancher, and I'm an oil producer as well. And I live a great life. I have 4 beautiful kids, a beautiful wife, been married since I was 21, and I believe in marriage. I believe in raising children, with a masculine dad. I know that's almost an evil word now. And I love my family. That's about it.
Well,
I'm a right winger. I'm conservative. That's the difference between you and me. And probably the only thing is politics.
The only difference between you and I is politics, you said?
Yeah, probably. It looks like you're a great dad, and you have a great wife and a great wife, great life. We have probably way more in common than we disagree with, but your politics, man, it's fine that you believe what you believe, but you have this attitude towards people that don't think like you that comes off as very disrespectful. And it blows my mind why I like you, but I do.
Well, that's hilarious. And I really appreciate it. And I don't blame you for not liking me for the things that you don't like me, or things I say, at least. I probably feel the same way about you. So I'm glad that you mentioned the masculinity thing, because that's really the reason why I reached out to you, because in your tweet, you said it must be painful to be such a beta. And this, to me, is the most interesting conversation that men, certainly, just men of a certain age especially, can be having. I'm really interested in talking to men about that issue. And seeing as that you and I disagree to the point you'd make that comment on Twitter, and now even in terms of, parenting, how that's somehow is a value. I'd love to know what you mean by that. Like, what does it mean when you said it must be painful to be such a beta? What do you mean by that? What does that mean?
I meant that by your politics, by the way you talk, the way you tweet. Was that completely sarcastic, that tweet about that sign? Were you being sarcastic? Because the way I interpreted it, and it could be wrong, it came off as though these people were too stupid to read the rest of the sign all the way down to where it says weapons. That was my point on that. It seems like a childish thing to do, and it seems like that's what we have now is children that are 26 years old.
Was that last thing you said? Sorry.
it seems like where we're going right now with kids growing up, they're not becoming men. And it's just a childish thing to do. It was a childish thing for me to tweet that.
No. That's
on your tweet. Of course it was. But the thing is
let's get to the root of it for sure. And just to answer your question, I think that people in general, but especially people on the right, way more on the right, and I'm sure you're going to disagree with me, and I'm looking forward to it. I think people, lots of liberal progressives for sure as well, get way too much of their opinions and their influences from television and radio, from listening and watching to people, and then a lot from social media. And I argue or contend that those sources are generally, because they're ratings based, they are as entertaining and filled with as much conflict and all the obvious things that get people to watch and listen. If it bleeds, it leads, etc. I've always tried to host a conversation long form with policy experts that some people, certainly in entertainment, might say, well, that's a little dry, it's a little boring. I don't think it is. But nonetheless, I think that the best place or ways to get your information is to read. So newspapers, investigative journalism, long form, obviously books. But I think people on the right are more likely to be influenced by TV and radio and not be people who read serious analysis, long form. So I do believe that. I believe that. And that for a lot of reasons. They don't have the time, the interest, same reasons that anybody doesn't read as much as we all used to.
Correct. Yeah,
So I don't think they read.
I tend to agree with you. But you don't think they read. Okay.
No, I think they read, but I think all of us, listen, I read less than I ever did, but I listen to longer form podcasts and so on. And I would argue that my sources are more serious in general. I think that people on the right so often are influenced by talking heads on TV, which are different than on the right than they are on the left. Way different, I would argue. But more importantly, they're not reading, I mean, like my bookcases are filled with books of authors that I've interviewed. And I think that does make me smarter than someone who only listens to Hannity. I do.
Good.
Do you?
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of clapping steals on Bill Maher. You don't think a lot of these younger generation, by the way, that's young generation we're talking about. It's 80, 90% liberal or progressive, whatever the hell you want to call it now. Where do you think they're getting their crap from? Is it Comedy Central? Is it all these late shows that have done nothing but shit on half the country on these corporate networks that are on your side, by the way? You don't think they're getting influenced by this nonsense?
I do. But I think younger people in general are lean progressive because they're getting educated. They're in college. They're in school. I think it's about college. I think it's about, higher education. I think that's really what the issue is. But so let's get back. But that's an interesting conversation maybe for another time. Let's get back to the masculine thing. Clearly that's something that you care a lot about. It's something that I care a lot about. We both care about the role we are as father, our kids. So tell me what your concern is, because I could articulate my concern with a lot of male issues. I'll call them male-centered issues. But what do you think? What do you think's wrong with men today? In America, American men today.
Just American men, I unfortunately
or take it however. Take that question. I just tried to ask you a pointed question, but take that wherever you want to take it.
Yeah, what I was going to say is my point of view is skewed because where I live, in the part of the country I'm at, there isn't a problem necessarily. But
there isn't?
Not necessarily men. Well,
can I stop you by asking?
Men like to fight. Men open doors for women. Men value women more. Men feel women are more valuable than men. This is why our country has sent men to wars, not women. And I don't think I want to see that to change. But I'm afraid you are of the viewpoint. Tell me if I'm wrong. That if there would be a draft, would you want your boys and daughters to be drafted equally, or would it just be the men
Well,
because that's one point that
I'll
really
tell you what I
bothers
think.
me. I see this on the progressive left, Pete, where women are as expendable as men. Do you believe that?
Yes.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Well, I believe that in 2021, that gender equity there's nothing that men should or can do better than women. I do believe that, but let me.
Sure there is. Well, sure there is. Sure there is.
Outside of physical strength, but I would measure strength by how much pain you can take, and women could arguably take more pain. But let me I have a follow-up because I have a really important follow-up, which is my question is what do you think are the issues with men today? And one thing you didn't say, and I'm really interested in this. You said you're a farmer, right?
Correct.
So the suicide rates for farmers are now spiking and have historically and consistently been disproportionate to other careers and lines of work. And I think that's a huge issue, but I don't know much about it. I'm guessing you do.
Well, the profit margins have been really low for a long time. I mean, you can go back to the 1950s and watch the decline in the amount of farmers versus where we are now. I mean, it used to be 60% of the population was farmers, and I think it's down to 10% or maybe even less. But no, yeah, it's high, but you're also talking about a very high stress.
No, but so here's my question to you. Here's my question to you.
That's the way.
No, I actually kind of know the answer to what I'm asking, but I wanted you to articulate it because you're actually a farmer. So my thing is, suicide rates are really high in farmers. Why does a farmer take their life? You just explained, you touched on it. It's usually about, I mean, I just can't imagine. I'm a gardener, so when my tomatoes go bad, it's devastating. It means nothing to my bottom line at all, but it's spiritually upsetting to me. So if your crop goes bad or the profit margin is low, your entire next year or entire life is potentially destroyed. I understand the stress that you're describing. What I want to do is prevent farmers from taking their lives by giving them all kinds of resources that will help them understand their value is more important alive than dead, if I'm going to be so blunt. And so, that's what I want to help. Do you think that there is help for a farmer who is, at the end of suicidal?
Well, I'm sure there's help for anybody. If you want to start with something, start with, I don't know, how do I put this kindly? Go to Amazon Prime or Netflix and type in farming, see what comes up. There's nothing ever good that pops up. There's no documentaries out there, or very few, that say anything good about what we do or our way of life out here. So there's a good start.
What do you mean?
That, of course, but it's always activism, Frankensteer, genetically modified, people getting scared about GMOs. It's all lies, by the way. I mean, the stuff's real. People don't eat that. It's nonsense that's lied about us constantly, but I don't know what that has to do with masculinity, your original question.
Well, it does because I'm interested in everything you just said too, but I do want to stay on this masculinity issue because the issue is, for example, I think that men have we have an epidemic in this country of men not dealing with their emotional struggles. Do you agree or disagree? Epidemic.
We die. A lot of men are shit on right now in this society. A lot of men are shit on in this society. A lot of men are told that we live in a rapist culture. Gillette runs ads about men being pigs and needing to treat women better. And quite frankly, that's not what's happening. Of course, there's anomalies. There's bad things that happen, but it's constantly men are shit on. And you know that too, Pete. We hear it all the time. It's in every corporate ad that has anything to do with men.
Listen, let me just be clear. You think I would be a person who might be, maybe you think is someone who shits on men. But the truth is, I would argue, I've done more to help men and advocate for men and their interests in terms of emotional interests than almost anybody. Certainly more than the right wingers who despise me for my whatever, lack of masculinity, because I think men's health is super important. And I see the epidemics. And if I listed off all of the statistics about men and our stress levels and dying young, and even there's data now, and I'm a little sketchy about it, but it seems pretty conclusive, that loneliness can be fatal. And men are really, really lonely. And that is also borne out by data. And I would argue thousands of anecdotes that I hear from listeners and men. And I want to help reverse those trends. And I want to help get men the resources that they need, the outlets that they need, the advice that they need, the books, the networks that they need, from AA to any other kind of therapy or financial resources or advice that can lessen their struggle so they don't die lonely of a heart attack. That's what I want to do. Now, what do you think of that?
Well, it sounds great to me. I mean, I don't know. Do you do that through your platform, through your podcast? I mean, I don't know. I want men to be men. I want men to not be told that they're bad. I want men to be told that masculinity isn't evil. It's fine. It's natural. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing, is we're telling little boys to not be natural. I see it everywhere.
Give me specifics here of what, like, you mentioned the Gillette ad and you mentioned the telling, and I actually don't share. I don't see, because I think we have obviously different lens and different values, it would sound like, but like, what do you mean? Specifically, do you have sons?
Oh, yeah, I've got 2 sons.
2 sons, 2 daughters?
2 sons, 2 daughters.
So like, what is it, like a specific example of something that you're worried, your son has been told or indoctrinated, or, what are the specific things that get said or done that you're worried about?
What I'm worried about isn't necessarily specific yet because they're really young, but what I am worried about is the amount of little boys that are being put on Adderall. That is scary.
Wait a second. Your top concern is, if I'm hearing you, is the amount of young boys that are being prescribed a drug for their attention deficiency?
Yeah.
Hold on.
This was never a thing 100 years ago.
Why are you,
but now
what do you know about that? What personal experience do you have with it, the issue or the drug?
I don't. Well, when you say personal, what do you mean? Meaning, family or friends? Because I've got friends. I also have his friends that little kids were prescribed this. I've seen it from the age of as little as 8 up till 16 or whatever, and I've only seen it in a couple kids. But I think you've even talked about this, where kids are being put on this stuff. I think maybe I didn't hear that.
Listen,
it's everywhere. It's awful. We didn't used to do this, Pete, and it's because little boys want to be little boys and run around and be rambunctious, and they get in trouble. And I'm not even saying in school. But there's a lot of it there, and this is what's happening.
So I asked, because, well, I just want to know what you know about it. So you've never taken, or your kids have never been prescribed, or you don't have a direct personal experience with Adderall.
No, not direct.
But what you're telling me, this is seriously, legitimately fascinating, is that your concern is that boys are being prescribed an ADD drug to help remedy behavior that is natural and consistent with traditional, boy behavior.
I said it's a concern. Yeah.
It's Mike. I share your concern. And the person who I think has written a lot about this, well, certainly Dr. Carroll, but also Tom Hartman, who's probably
that's exactly where I heard it from. Yes.
Who?
I think he's talked about it on your show, Dr. Aaron Carroll, hasn't he?
But I guess, because my experience with educators is such that I feel like you're wrong about it being prescribed. I feel like the kids that get that prescription, often it's being pushed from their parents, and it's more about the behavior at home. But I think those kids are usually very exceptional, which is why that it's prescribed. Meaning the behaviors that you're describing, they're rambunctious, they're just being boys. I don't think anybody is. I don't see that concern. You do, I don't. So I don't want to. Okay. So let me ask you. But getting back to let's stay with this here's my deal. I want to tell you, this is what I want to do. And I don't mind sharing this on the podcast. I'm not going to edit it out. I've been talking to a few listeners and a few experts about creating a space for men's health, like a virtual space, like we meet up, we talk, about all the shit that we're dealing with. Because I've been pretty open about my emotional struggles, and I find it really helpful when other people, and especially men in similar categories or have similar experiences, especially if they're a little older, share with me what works for them to cope. And what would you think about that, A? And what would you think about being a part of it?
Oh, I think that's a great idea, and I don't know that I'd be a part of it because I'm fine.
Yeah, but because you say you're fine. I mean,
because I know me best. I know me best. I'm fine.
Well, doesn't that true of everybody? Doesn't everybody know themselves?
Then can't you take my word for it that I'm fine? I think it's a great idea.
You know what? I don't. I don't because because of course I take your word for it, but like I think when someone says they're fine, that usually makes me think, oh, well, here's the deal. The word is subjective. So what you think is fine, you might actually have a lot of issues that you're dealing with. And if I dealt with them, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm a wreck. And you're like, listen, I deal with these things. It's life. I'm okay. I think it's so subjective. Like, so I wonder, you know, if I asked you, what do you struggle with? Would you be like, nothing?
What do I struggle with?
Do you have any behavioral issues? Like I have anger issues. I have reactionary issues. I have ego issues and like sometimes maturity issues. And I think the issues that you described sometimes are, you know, that you criticize me for. I think those are fair faults. Like I think I'm pretty.
Lashing out on Twitter. There's an issue.
I don't think that. I mean, I don't know how that affects your life. No, seriously. Like, are you financially unconcerned about your own finances?
Very, very much so. Yes.
So you're well.
And that's another.
So you wait. Just to be clear,
on, Pete, okay.
You don't like stay up at night worrying about money or health care for your family.
No.
Great.
Now, let me say something. Can I say something on that?
Yeah.
There's another big issue. And I wanted to touch on this because it does have to do with masculinity and men. Okay. The single, probably one of the biggest threats to America, your words, and I quote, Steve Bannon is the biggest threat to America. He's the only one I hear, and I have listened to him, that talks about people not owning anything, younger people not owning any property. That's a big deal for men that can't own anything anymore. That is a huge issue. Now, I know you have a home, right? As do I, and I own land, a lot. Okay, I'm proud of that. It makes me feel good knowing that I have something to fall back on. Now, you say Steve Bannon is one of the biggest threats to our country, but I've listened to him too. I've listened to him as much as I listen to you, Pete, and that's a lot. Mm-hmm. And I don't hear anything evil or horrible coming out of him. He's talking about men and women and people not owning anything, not having any equity. And you're talking, when I hear equity from you guys, from your side, I hear, which is equality, I think that's equality is what I hear a lot of, which we all strive for. Everybody's going to have more than somebody else because people are smarter than other people. But we're to a point now where there's how many millions of young people that rent apartments and don't own anything. That's a huge problem. And he's an evil guy for talking about that?
No, I don't even know. I honestly, I really don't know anything about what you're talking about. The idea of owning a thing and what it means and why it matters. But I don't want to digress because those are all good points. And my problem with Steve Bannon has nothing to do with anything you just said. I don't even know if I have an opinion on that. I'm not sure why owning anything is an important thing. As a matter of fact, I fantasize about not owning anything except for an electric Sprinter van with a studio in it that I can travel around the country in when my daughters leave me. And my wife leaves me, and that's my only possession. And then I live at the bottom of a mountain, and I snowboard and I podcast. But to me, that sounds like ultimate happiness in a way. But putting the ownership thing aside and coming back to that, you went off on that when I asked you about financially. So can I ask you another somewhat personal question, just to try to get to the root of what do you struggle with, if anything? Are your kids parenting? Is that challenging for you?
Okay, so I have a daughter that's 11, and that is getting tough but that's normal parenting. She's 11. But
how old's your oldest kid?
11.
So my thing has been, I'm the best dad and didn't make too many major mistakes until the last few years when they got a mind of their own, which was by design. And then it's harder. And then I get more stressed about trying to do the right thing or not do, so like a lot of my frustration or stress in my life is, am I doing the right thing by the girls? With the way I talk to them, the way I treat them, the boundaries I create or didn't create. So I struggle with that. And I wonder if that's something that you think you might also anticipate struggling with when the kids, have a mind of their own and start talking back.
Yeah, I'd say if anything, talking back. And how do I carry myself with that? Do you yell right away, or do you give them another chance? Do you tell them for the fourth time nicely to get up and get out of bed? It's time to get going.
Well, let me give you a piece of advice.
As far as a struggle, no, it's normal parenting. That's right. What every human being that's ever had a child has ever had to go through.
Except for when your kids get a phone, there is no previous generation that could tell you how to deal with that. And I'm telling you, you'll call me the day your gets a phone. You'll be like, Pete, you've never been more right about this. You can do whatever you want. You can be the best parent and create the best. If you decide to give your kid a phone, they will change, and you'll be very confused as to the best way forward, because limiting them means literally limiting their friendships, and that's hard. It's a tough road.
Yeah, it is hard. My oldest has had one for 3 months now.
Oh, yeah.
Before that, it was an iPod, and the way here it is. You know where the masculinity thing comes in?
Go ahead.
I'm not going to kowtow. I'm not going to kowtow like my wife and many other women in relationships do, where they don't want to fight. They're less confrontational. When I say, give me that phone or put the phone down, that's all I have to do.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a gender. I don't think that's a gender thing. No, it's fine. I think that's
it takes the man of the household a lot of times. Not saying all the time, but kids are generally more scared. I don't like to say this, but kids are generally more scared or more intimidated of the father, and that's where the masculinity thing comes in.
So do you think? And so I don't. Here's the thing. Here's the difference between you and I think this is a core difference. I have no interest or desire to ever intimidate or scare my daughters, ever, other than telling them about how the world is and things like that. That might scare them, and I might want to do that on purpose. Like, just know these are the consequences of reactions if you do that. I don't mean to scare you, but you want to intimidate and scare your kids to affect their behavior, and I know that works.
No,
but
I said men generally are more intimidating to children than women.
Yeah,
that is a fact.
And I'm saying, I would argue that's, certainly that's not true in my relationship, and I'm sure you would concede that that's not always true, but generally you're making that point. But nonetheless,
I'm making a generalization.
Yeah, but why is, I guess I'm hearing that that's a good thing. And I'm saying, I think that's that's why it was created this way. That's why it was created this way. My wife cannot get my oldest to do what I can get my oldest to do with one question. Now, maybe that's just my home, but I have a feeling that's just kind of the way it is, generally speaking. I'm not saying intimidating. It's not what I'm striving to do. I'm saying men in a household are more intimidating than women. Why is that good?
Normal. I don't know that it's good. I'm saying that's the way it is. That's the way.
Yeah, but I'm saying
is.
I think it's bad to be intimidating, to intimidate your kids, and I think that's bad. I think
Okay.
Maybe
why is it that daughters and kids tend to listen to their fathers more than their mothers?
I don't think that they do.
But I'm telling you. Oh, well, they do.
I don't. I actually think it's not necessarily, this day and age, I think less than ever before that is a gender thing.
I would agree with that.
And I would also argue that in more progressive families and in some cultures, even those that are fundamentally religious, the woman is the tribe leader, is the matriarch, and is in charge. And that is some old-timey stuff. So I would argue that's
the way it is in our house. The woman's in charge. It's always been that way. Where I'm at culturally, the woman's always in charge.
I guess I'm having a hard time connecting to, like, if I'm hearing maybe not what you're saying. Like, you're saying it only takes me one time to tell my kids. My wife has repeated over and over. What I'm hearing is that you're in charge of your kids more than your wife is, because she has to belabor it and. But,
I wouldn't say in charge. No, my kids listen to me better.
Well,
I think it's a masculinity thing.
Let's stay on this issue. Do you have a few more minutes?
Sure.
Let's just stay on this issue of masculinity and what you're worried is happening to our country and our culture, or to your kids. Like, what are your concerns around that?
Blurring the lines between men and women. Now, let me ask you something, Pete.
Mm-hmm.
How many genders are there? Are there men and women, or is there a whole bunch more than that?
I support the idea that you don't have to identify as a gender. I just don't think it matters.
Of course. Yeah, well, it kind of does. It's been that way since time began. We've been this way for a couple 100,000 years at least. It does matter. There's men, there's women, there's gays, there's feminine men, there's lesbians, but there's men and women. And this is something that you criticize. Remember the guy you talked to from Chicago, that younger guy that shit on you on Twitter or something?
Yeah.
And you criticized him for listening to Ben Shapiro, that Ben Shapiro beats this dead horse about trans stuff.
Yeah.
Or you know.
Yeah.
So what? Can he not have an opinion on it? There's two genders. Now you can subscribe to what you just said, that there's two genders. Is there two genders? Is there just men and women, Pete?
Well, no, I don't. Like I said, I don't. I don't. But here's
you don't have to subscribe to what I'm saying, but I'm just asking as a question. Can you answer that? Is there two genders?
Biologically, there are absolutely two genders. But how people choose to identify, and because you can have surgery to become another gender, I think
you can't. You can have surgery to change the way you look.
Well, you can change the way your body functions radically, for sure. I mean, and eventually
to have a baby.
Yeah, eventually, I think that won't. Do you think it's beyond science to implant an embryo in a biological male? I don't.
Oh no! I'm sure it's possible.
And I think that's probably going to be. I think that's probably going to be a good thing in a future where being fertile women is going to be harder and harder for any number of reasons, with pollution and chemicals, blah blah blah. But my question isn't like, you and I can totally disagree on that. I just want to flesh out your point, which is, well, first of all, just to get a baseline, are you supportive of people marrying, gay marriage?
Sure.
You sound super enthusiastic.
I don't think it does any good for society, but I also don't want to, I don't think it helped or hurt anything that gay marriage is legal. Nobody cares anymore, Pete. Nobody hasn't cared for a long time, except the far Christian right. Other than them, nobody.
Are you religious yourself?
I try to be.
Do you believe what religion?
Christian.
So do you accept Jesus Christ as your savior?
Try to. It doesn't mean I don't have questions, but who doesn't?
Do you bring your family to church?
At times, yes.
But not regularly? You're not like really involved in the, say, community of the church?
Actually, pretty regularly. I like the culture that they're brought up in, and even if I do question and have disagreements with certain things, but I prefer the culture. I prefer the culture.
Okay. Are you okay with gays serving in the military openly?
Sure.
And do you think it's okay for anybody to deny someone service based on their sexual orientation, like at a barbershop or, the Baker case, I mean, it's a more complex question.
Yeah, that's a tough one, because you get into I don't want to compel businesses or private institutions to do anything that they don't want to do.
That's fine.
Even if it's wrong.
Let's go just to easier ones. Gay people adopting. Do you support that?
I do, and that's actually been something that, boy, did I evolve on.
Great. Well, did you have?
I think the only problem I see with lesbians or gays adopting a child, well, sorry, I guess they're all gay, whatever. But you know what I mean? No, 2 women or 2 men is the opposite sex not being there. That's the only problem.
Sure. Well, even if I don't think that's too much of an issue based on the social science. But if I conceded that it were. I think where you would land is better than to have them have two loving adults in a safe home than being with no parents in an orphanage or whatever situation they'll find.
Yeah, or one parent.
Sure,
it's better to have two loving parents than one parent.
Yeah. So I'll let you go on one more, just question along these lines of like your biggest concern about the changing culture, in terms of the masculinity issue. And I mean, for example, one of the things that I think is a huge problem that we need to work on is men being violent, especially with guns. It's entirely men killing each other with guns outside of accidents and suicides. I think it's almost entirely men. And,
Yes, it is.
And do you think that that's something that we should address with especially young men? And I'm not talking just about, the more common, I think it is, black men killing each other and gang-related crimes, but white guys, and in school shootings or leaving, or even in suicide. I guess you can include, like, a lot of men now. There's a huge movement of men feeling like they can't meet women, they can't have sex, and so they end up killing women, or they end up just hating women because they can't get laid, frankly, without being more sensitive. So do you think that's an issue, that men are so violent, and that's like that we should address either with public policy or just literally in a conversation like ours?
I don't understand what public policy could possibly help stopping black men killing black men or white men shooting up schools, unless you, and I know where you're going with this, unless you want to do a full gun ban. No, I'm not going there.
I'm not.
I don't know what you're going to do.
Nope. Not. Let's leave guns outside I purposely didn't say that. I'm not even talking about access to guns. I purposely didn't say that. I mean, you would get to a point where you would be so violent towards another person or yourself. Because one of the issues, I've worked on domestic abuse. Are you familiar with the statistics on that in America?
Familiar with some of them.
Can you imagine that it's the majority of it is men against men are the perpetrators of domestic violence? The vast majority.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Overwhelming majority is men against men and men against women.
So I worked on that issue with a bunch of nonprofits, and I actually had to stop doing it because it was so depressing, because it was just getting so much worse. Like the incidents of domestic abuse against women by men overwhelmingly was just getting worse. And I felt like I can't do this. So when trying to understand the problem and the solutions, I really got educated on the statistics and on what really works. And I think there are a ton of public policies that help men understand their emotional issues so that they don't become violent against others and themselves. Mm-hmm. Which often have to do with all these things we have tied up, and being men and being responsible for this or for that, or whatever the expectations are of us. And, there's a lot of social issues, there are a lot of financial issues, there are a lot of things. And I know the policy solutions that go a long way to helping men not to be violent against each other and themselves, their own family members, the people they love the most. I mean, it's always a guy who comes back and shoots up the office. What could we do? Outside of guns, let's leave that aside, to help that guy not get to that place. Would you join me in an effort to, research those solutions?
I mean, I suppose I don't know what you would want me to do other than, I guess, talk to somebody. My question is, the violence that you're talking about, whether it's gun violence or just domestic abuse, mm-hmm. Is it skyrocketing in accordance with the population, or is it steadily going up because of our population going up? I mean, I don't understand. Is there that much more now than there was 50 years ago?
Well, yes. Let's just say it's really bad.
As a percentage of the population, it's higher.
Well, I mean, you're going to force me to bring in the gun issue. There's more guns. So more people are dying.
Yeah, and there's less crime with more people. There's way more guns, and there's less crime than there was in the 80s and 90s in proportion to the population. And that's something else that I wanted to say something to you about, and that was when you were on Rogan, and you talked about people killing each other in Chicago with guns because those gun laws aren't there in Indiana. And guns travel across state lines just fine. Why aren't people killing each other in Indiana like they are in Chicago? If those guns
because of
less regulated
because of the issues because of all the issues in urban in urban areas.
What issue? What issue?
Poverty and drugs. Mainly.
Completely agree with you. But
poverty and drugs and also creating criminals. If you lock somebody up for a crime and you put them in prison, our prison system does not rehabilitate them. It makes them a better criminal.
Right.
So I'm against the drug war. I think it's insane failure. I think more and more Americans agree with that. And I think if you legalize and regulate all drugs, it'd be much better. Although completely horrible situation. People are always going to do drugs. So let's make money off of it and offer them treatment and not prison. I think it's crazy.
So why is if it's drugs and poverty, there's also drugs and poverty in Indiana. So why is it people killing themselves in Chicago?
Because it's a because there's a huge issue in the black community that has been going on since the beginning of this country. But one specifically is if you keep locking men up, then they're not there to raise their families. Don't lock men up. Rehabilitate them.
Well, first of all, I completely agree with you, Pete. I'm not arguing that at all.
Yeah, and then more importantly, if you know any black people who grew up in a black neighborhood, ask them what their dreams were. They'll give you like 3 roads because they're the only 3 roads that they saw people succeeding in, and 2 of them will be drug dealer and athlete or musician. Right. 3 of them. But we need to give them the best education. Education, of course, is attached to property values. And if you don't think racism is a real and horrible endemic in our society, then we shouldn't talk about it. But it's 100%. It's not. It's just about opportunity, man. It's just about opportunity. The problem is there's not as much opportunity in cities, and there's a tremendous amount of racism and crime, and a lot of that is definitely by design.
In these cities.
Yeah.
In these cities, there's that much racism in these cities. In these big cities?
In every single layer of everything that we do, there's tons of racism. Everywhere you look, it's everywhere. It's horrible. This country is completely poisoned by it in every way, including by liberals and progressives who think they're doing, everything right. It's endemic. It's a huge part of the DNA of this country, for sure. Everywhere.
Okay, well, we will completely disagree with that. There's no way we'll ever agree. And see that right there, you're probably right, by the way, because arguably you're smarter than me.
Well, it's not smarter, dude. It's like, I think the conservatives...
No, but hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. But when you say this is ingrained into the DNA of our country, do you know what that does to white men when you say that crap? And it's not just you.
But it's not. But what is it? Why doesn't it do that to me?
That they have never done anything. They have never done anything to anybody. Go say that shit to somebody in Appalachia. My God.
No, I listen.
You think they give a shit about black people or hate black people?
No, I don't. That's part of the problem. But I also think it's short-sighted. I think what you hear is, oh, you think we don't have struggles? No, I think it's so bizarre, me as a white person, that you would be lecturing me like, you think, why don't I feel that way? When I hear it, when I see it. And the difference is, I would argue, that we're so influenced and instructed by our own personal experiences in life. For example, you're a farmer. I could sit here and probably talk to you, I bet you, for 6 hours of just questions on farming alone. The business, ecology, the history, climate, fertilizer, GMOs. I think we agree on that. All of that. Because that's what you know. but I know a lot about the struggle of black folks because I've been embedded in their families and their homes and their lives and their work for years and years and years. So I see it from their point of view, and I see it from the point of view of a white guy who grew up on a farm, not working a farm. But my backyard was like Field of Dreams. Grass ended, cornfield started. Deer season started, half my class was gone. Like, I get, that's why it irks me the shit out of me when you're right that people hear what they want to hear. But I know exactly how the poor people feel. That's my family. Poor white people is my family. But I took a different journey. I left that area. I went to college. I lived with black people in college. They were my roommates. I was in a social group of black people. Then I moved to New York City, and then I was around all people. So gay people, Jewish people, you name it, every nationality. Sure. Did my internship at Disney World, Epcot Center, every nationality. The reason I think what I think is because of my entire journey of 45 years living with and being very involved with black folks in the closest, most intimate parts of my life, consistently, listening to them. And I don't think I need to listen as much to poor white people because I lived that. And my family lived that. My mom grew up as poor as you can be in upstate New York, but she became a public school teacher, and most of her kids, or half her kids, were black. And even though I lived in a predominantly white, that was part of my life. My aunt married a black guy. I had black cousins. That was part of my life. Then I went to college. So that's why I think what I think. Can you grant me that?
Of course. Of course. I'd listen to all
What is the empathy? What is the empathy that I am missing for the poor white people? What do I not know? What am I missing? What did I not live? What did I not live? What did my family not live?
I'm not saying that you should show empathy. I'm saying the idea that we were founded on this stuff, that it. You said it's in our DNA.
For sure.
For racism.
Well, what do you think?
People just don't believe it. It's a lie.
I understand. No, I understand that they don't. I understand that they don't.
Hold on a sec. By the way, you're talking to somebody who, by your standards, by progressive standards, by black people's standards, I'm not white. So I guess that means I can say that, and you have to believe me, right?
No, not at all.
Because I'm part Native American, so I know what I'm talking about.
Do people identify? Do you look non-white?
No, I look white.
Then we're not. Then forget it. Then forget it.
Say that to a black person that's 10% black. Say that to them.
No, because I think listen, if you I'll tell you what, I'll grant you this. If you want to play that card, I'll only concede to it if you grew up on or around the reservation. Then I'd be like, okay, you know what you're talking about. But if you can name two tribes, name me two tribes.
Name two tribes that I'm from?
No, just name two Native American tribes in the country, locally, where you live.
Oh God, we don't even have any reservations.
So let's put to rest your point, because you have you just admitted you can't even name the tribes, much less have empathy for their struggle. Native tribal people's struggle is horrible.
Hold on. That's not what I'm talking. Oh my God, Pete, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about using this language that this entire country DNA is built on.
But so let me ask you. Let me try to prove the point. Cool. I appreciate that. Let me, and I'll let you go in like 2 minutes here. So the point of that is, the question I would ask you is, did you support Dr. Martin Luther King? Do you support his accomplishments? And if so, what do you think they were?
That black people and white people should live together, that there should, in harmony, that black people should have full access to integration with education, all voting rights. Of course, I believe in all of that. So I don't even know how we really got on this.
I'll ask you, because I think that a lot of white Americans are just completely ignorant on the struggle, the historic struggle, and the specific policies that black folks have been fighting for and continue to this day, sadly, to fight for. And so Dr. Martin Luther King, specifically, what policies? Because you're right, generally, But specifically, what did he accomplish? What did he negotiate with Lyndon Johnson? What did he demand from the civil rights movement? What was it specifically about?
Voting rights.
Yeah, that's absolutely the primary. That's what I think. So if that's the case, today, voting rights are being rolled back. What Dr.
How?
I'll tell you.
How?
I'll tell you specifically. Dr. King fought for and accomplished the most historic voting rights achievement since the Civil War's ending, I think, which was the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act established several things, but without going into it, it was gutted. His literal achievement, the law he passed, has been reversed by the United States Supreme Court, even though every Republican supported it in the United Senate. All of them. George Bush signed it until 2010, when Section 5 was removed, and recently Section 2. That's Dr. King fought for that. Conservatives removed it. They removed what Dr. King fought for. Why? And by the way, the most important point, the most important argument here is people say, and you might say, well, it's not necessary anymore. It's those rights that he fought for aren't necessary anymore. That's what conservatives on the Supreme Court said. Republicans didn't say that in the Senate. The legislators, Congress didn't say that. The Supreme Court usurped the entire will of the U.S. Senate, including every Republican, and said, you know what? Racism in the South is not a concern. We no longer need the protections that Dr. King fought for. They removed them. And bro, the most important thing to know is the day they removed them, that day, Texas rolled back rights to vote. And since that day, all these other states can now legally. They legally can. And so if you supported what Dr. King fought for...
Voter ID? Voter ID in Texas? Are you talking about voter ID in Texas?
I'm talking about several things, but without going into any of them, because I don't want to argue with you about any of those. There is no argument. That is the...
I'm not even trying to argue. I'm asking.
No, I know, but so I don't want to get into this.
Voter ID in Texas?
No, I'm not talking about voter ID in Texas. Holder versus Shelby County was the decision. As soon as John Roberts reversed that decision, I'm almost positive it was Texas, and then subsequently several other states passed laws making it harder for likely Democrats, let's just say, to vote. Black people have always, organized to vote after church on Sundays. And that's one of many restrictions that they have said, you can't do that anymore. Why?
Okay.
And most importantly, the thing that bothers me the most about conservatives, I'm sure you've heard me argue this, is the most conservative argument in the world, which I think there's some credence to, is that government shouldn't have so much control and shouldn't create so many regulations. And my knee-jerk reaction as a progressive is government doesn't really create laws and regulations that are unnecessary. I'm sure you as a farmer could name many, but let's leave that aside. What I'm saying is, why do you want a new regulation to create problems and expenses for an issue that doesn't exist? We do not have a voter fraud issue in the United States of America. There is zero proof of it anywhere in any district that we have an issue with voter fraud. And of course we don't. Who wants to commit that crime? It's stupid. The penalties are harsh. Why would you do it? So why have we created these restrictions? Why have we created solutions, conservatives? Why did conservatives create new laws and regulations for a problem that doesn't exist? And in that, rolling back Dr. King's signature achievement. Why?
I tell you what, I don't know.
I'll tell you the answer. It's not inherently a racism. It's just so they can win elections. If Democrats...
Oh, really? Okay. That's what it is. That's what it is. So
there aren't enough...
telling me that at 80% of foreign-born Americans register with the Democratic Party. That's okay. That's fine. But these guys, whatever they're doing in Texas or wherever else, that's wrong. I maybe you're right. Maybe
what's wrong with foreign? What? I don't understand.
I honestly don't understand how it's going to be an issue in the future. I really don't.
It might
you
not.
guys are going to win everything.
Hey, it might not be.
You're winning now. You're winning now.
You may be. No, wait, listen.
Won a presidential.
No, but hold on a second.
They haven't won the popular vote for 20 years.
I know. So hold on a second.
You're not. You've got it. You've got it.
You may be right, but you're not answering the question. The question, the answer should be, generally speaking, between you and I and any group of people about anything. Let's argue about the best solution and agree on what the best solution forward is. Not, I'm going to win at all costs. And the issue that I asked you that you didn't answer, you may be right. These voter restrictions may not work. They may not disenfranchise people and make it, then people might overcome them. But the question on the table to you is, and to anybody is, why have you, a conservative-minded person, created new laws for a problem that does not exist? Why? And of course, the answer is
about me. I haven't done. What are you talking about? I don't even live in Texas. What are you talking me? You lumping me in with everybody else?
I am.
Like that? I don't even know how the hell. Of course you are. Yeah. Well, I guess I did it to you. So.
No, it's okay. No, it's because I'm lumping you in because the arguments that you're making about racism, and the only argument. The argument about racism, people don't really win or lose that argument very often, except for this one. I find this effective, this argument I'm making to you effective, that it is racist to make it harder. Historically in America, blacks didn't have the right to vote. They died to get the right to vote. Then they've only tried to get more access. And the more access they get, the more they win. But the access is being rolled back. What could be more racist than a policy to make it harder for Democrats, likely black folks, overwhelmingly, to vote? What could be more racist than if we agree on Dr. Martin Luther King's achievement, than rolling his achievements back? I mean, the guy who marched with him, John Lewis, was there. He was there. He knows what happened.
I don't know what you're talking about other than voter ID stuff. If they've made it illegal in some of these states to organize at churches, doesn't that include white people that organize at churches? Maybe white people don't do it, but doesn't that include everybody? I don't know.
Listen, that's the Republicans' concern. Republicans' concern right now is, oh my God, you just fucking hurt us by your stupid thing. But listen, it's not your business to know such intricacies, and I appreciate you listening to my show because that's how I learn from the experts. But my question to you again, finally, and I'll let you go, and maybe your answer is I don't know. But the question is, why create laws and regulations for safe elections when there aren't any problems? Oh shit!
I am referring to only the thing that I know is voter ID. That's the only thing I'm hearing about. Now, maybe I missed that episode of yours where you've talked, because I know you have talked about it ad nauseum, and I don't know the rest of this stuff other than voter
the whole
ID. And if that's racist, then that blows my fucking mind how that's racist. But the other stuff,
no, but I'll tell you why. But it's not. But it's the reason why. Forget race. Why are you making a law that makes people show an ID? They had to show an ID to register to vote. Nobody's doing anything. Why did they make the voter ID law? Why? There's no problem. People aren't fraudulently.
I guess they're not trusting the system.
No, but there's no reason not to.
Wherever.
America has the most safe elections in the world. Why did you make it?
That is not what you were saying 3 fucking years ago with this Russia bullshit. That is not what you were saying. That is not what MSNBC and these other stupid networks that you were a part of were saying, Pete. Come on.
I can tell you. I can tell you exactly what happened.
No, this Russia bullshit. You pushed it as much as a lot of these other.
No, listen. What Russia influenced people's opinions.
Oh my God! On Facebook or Twitter.
I mean, I don't even understand how that's. How is it controversial that if I create 1 million Facebook posts all saying a similar thing, it wouldn't matter? You don't think that matters?
You're implying that people don't have their own mind.
No, I'm not at all.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
No, I'm not at all. People. No,
because
people.
Of how they stare at their phone.
You don't think people are influenced by their politics?
I think some people are influenced. I think a lot of black people are conservative at heart, but never would ever vote it. So what? What are you going to do? My God. 3 years, Pete, we listened to Russia. It was on CNN, wall to wall.
Let's not.
You talked about it constantly.
Yeah.
And then we went to the safest elections in fucking forever.
Yes.
Okay.
We did. Nobody's saying. Wait.
Fine.
Do you think we don't have a safe elections?
I think we do have safe elections. I thought this Russia thing was bullshit.
Okay, so why? Okay, so hold on a second.
The election was bullshit.
Since there's no election anywhere at the local, state, or federal level that requires a solution being voter ID. Why do we have it? Why? Are people voting fraudulently to the point that it affects the outcome of an election anywhere? Because if that's the case, tell me where. The answer is there's nowhere.
And the question you keep asking me is not a question for me. I'm not the one writing these laws. I'm not the one that's living.
I know. But I'm telling you the answer in the end. But you just don't want to, you don't have an. That's fine. You can look. We can talk. Let me let you go. I got to go anyway. I really appreciate talking to you. I recorded the whole hour. And do is there anything? There's no identifying characteristics. Is there anything you want me to take out? Can I share our conversation with people? I think people like it. I think it was respectful. I think I did a lot better with you than I did with that other guy who you heard me do it with. I feel closer to you, and I'd love to talk to you again.
No, it's fine. Sorry if I cursed at you. I didn't mean to be
listen, dude, you listen to my podcast a lot. I say this with every ounce of integrity I have. You can say whatever you want to me. I really appreciate that anyone would press play on that podcast, especially someone who disagrees with me as much as you do. You can call me any name you want. You were, in your words, maybe man enough to meet me here, and talk and let me record it. And I respect the hell out of that. Period. End of story.
No, you can play it. I mean, if you want to play the whole thing, fine. If not, it's fine. I don't care. I don't care if you don't play it at all. I'm glad you reached out to me. I'm glad you reached out on Twitter. Anytime I've ever reached out to anybody on Twitter, whether I was being friendly or being a dick like I did to you, nobody ever reaches out, to get into a conversation or to chat or anything. So the fact that you did that was pretty fucking cool, dude. And I really appreciate the fact that you did that. And I know you don't know me, but we do go way back. I used to call your show like 10 years ago here from Kansas, and I'm sure you don't remember me, but I've probably called you half a dozen times back in the Sirius XM.
Well, I appreciate that too.
You.
Yeah, thank you. And listen, here's the deal. I'll let it. I wouldn't post it for a few days anyway. If you change your mind, text me. But I'm definitely going to reach out to you again to talk more, and maybe even off the record. All right. Okay, and you've got my cell phone number, and you got mine too. Texts are easy to ignore if I annoy you or you annoy me. Okay. All right, man. I really sincerely would love to hear more about your specifically the thing that you know best, which may be farming. Although it sounds like you wear a few hats. I'd like to talk about your about farming and agriculture and all of it. Well, if that ever comes up and you want somebody to talk to about it, I've been doing. What do you farm? Wheat and sorghum. Interesting. And where do you say you live in Kansas? Yes. Cool. All right, man. I'm going to look more into that industry and try to understand about it before I talk to you and know nothing. Okay. Well, like I said, I'm here anytime, okay? All right. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Take care, Pete. Stand up. Well, there you go. What did you think of Ryan in Kansas? What did you think of that conversation? How did I do? Did you learn anything? Did I learn anything? Did we talk again? I'd love to know. Okay, well, that is a bare bones podcast. It's just the conversations, just the interviews. And, of course, I always love to do a lot more and really dress it up every day and put a lot into it. Unfortunately, I had a technical issue, and it's my fault. I didn't save it. The computer crashed or the program crashed. It happens from time to time when you're doing your own thing, but I still got it out there. And so that's it for today. I've got no more time, but I really appreciate you checking this out and support the podcast with a subscription, please. Go to patreon.com/Pete Dominic and go to the paid subscription link in the show notes. Here Monday through Friday, always love to hear from you, and I hope to talk to you soon or at our weekly hangouts and Thursday at 8. I'll see you there. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of a stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that
change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up. We got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up. You got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and hear